Hello, welcome back to the Premier League Predictor, and this week I've got an extra little challenge for you. Before we jump into it, guys, I have had an awful day today, so if you could please hit this video with a like and subscribe to the channel, it will make me feel a little bit better. Regardless of what's going on elsewhere, we have got Premier League Predictor to challenge, and it's an interesting week. Before we look at Game Week 25, let's look at Game Week 24, and I got a total of 2 points, and it's safe to say that none of us really had a massively great weekend this weekend. I got the Arsenal result and the Everton result correct. Everything else I predicted incorrectly. It was a mental week in the Premier League, to say the least. I think it's safe to say that I didn't beat any of you guys, but, you know, there's a new person at the top of the table, so we'll have to find out about that later. That's right, we'll be looking at the subscriber results later in the video, but right now we're going to take a look at Game Week 25, and we've got two postponed fixtures this week. We've got Manchester United versus Brentford, and we've got Newcastle versus Brighton, both postponed because Manchester United take on Newcastle at Wembley in the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. It's also worth noting that Game Week 25 starts on Friday night with Fulham taking on Wolves in a Friday night kickoff, so make sure you get your predictions in before then. With only 8 games to predict this week, please watch the video all the way through. I know I waffle on a little bit, but I really need those watch hours to help me get further on YouTube. So anything you can do to help, please do. First game of the week, as I said, is Fulham against Wolves, and I see this being quite a straightforward fixture. When it comes to Fulham, last week they managed to beat Brighton in a massive game for them because they're very close to each other in the table. I actually had Brighton to win that one. Fulham surprised me there and got the win. Up against Wolves, who lost to Bournemouth. I just need to check where Bournemouth are in the league. Bournemouth are actually just got out of the relegation zone. So frankly, that was an awful performance for Wolves there. That leaves this one pretty straightforward to predict. I've gone for 1-0 to Fulham. I don't think it'll be a massively high scoring game, but I can only see one person winning it. Next up, we got Everton versus Aston Villa, and even though Everton did get a win against Leeds last weekend, I'm actually going to go with Aston Villa for this one. I think they played very well against Arsenal. If anything, Emi Martinez kind of threw the game for them. The first goal that was kind of his fault with the own goal, he can't really do a massive amount about, but going up for the corner and then conceding that fourth goal, making the scoreline look a little bit too much in Arsenal's favour for my liking, kind of makes him, you know, on the wrong side of fortune with that one. I had Ben talking to me this week saying that he shouldn't have gone up for the corner. I was saying, did he really have anything to lose? When I look at the scoreline now, I think Arsenal walked that game. But I watched that game live. I know Arsenal didn't walk that game. I know it was a lot harder than the scoreline suggests. So maybe Emi Martinez could have done a little bit better there, potentially. With this game up against Everton, however, I feel like Aston Villa performed well against Arsenal and showed that they can compete against the best of teams. So you'd like to think that they can beat a team that are slightly lower down the Premier League table. I've gone for a 2-1 away Aston Villa win, and hopefully Martinez doesn't score any more own goals. The team that benefited from Emi Martinez were Arsenal, of course. They're up against Leicester this week. Leicester played against Manchester United and were really uninspiring, if I'm honest. David De Gea did have to make some good saves, but overall defensively they were poor against a Manchester United attack that I didn't actually think performed particularly well on the day, and still managed to score 3 goals without any return from Leicester. So I've gone for an easy Arsenal win here. I think Arsenal will do well to benefit from, obviously, Man City slipping up last week. Arsenal managed to grind out 3 points against Villa. If they can do it again against Leicester here, there's a chance that Man City might drop points. We'll have to wait and see about that one. But Arsenal, for me, are going to win this one. I've gone for 2-0. Straightforward win. Don't see there being any issues there. I say that. I literally get predictions wrong every week. I've had enough. I am stopping predicting that West Ham are going to do anything. Frankly, I'm going to predict them to get relegated now, because every time I back West Ham, every time I go, surely eventually they're going to turn things around and start getting some points, they just let me down every time. A 2-0 defeat to Spurs was far too easy for my liking. And Nottingham Forest were amazing against Manchester City. An interesting fact about that game, Chris Wood's goal that got Nottingham Forest the draw was scored after every single player on the Nottingham Forest team touching the ball before it went in the back of the net. It was a pretty incredible goal, to say the least. If you can go back and watch it, you'll notice that from back to front, every single Nottingham Forest player touches the ball before Wood puts it in the back of the net. So pretty impressive if you ask me. I think they're in pretty good run of form at the moment. They just look really good against City, so they've got that momentum coming into this West Ham game. I've gone for 1-0 to Nottingham Forest, Fingers crossed West Ham don't suddenly decide to turn up this week, the one week I don't back them. Southampton beat Chelsea last weekend, which is, you know, arguably not that much of an accomplishment, frankly. And they're up against Leeds, who are literally above them in the table. This is 19th versus 20th in the Premier League. And this game could honestly be worth 6 points. I know that's a bit of a saying that gets battered around a lot when it comes to a relegation battle or a battle for Europe. But this one could genuinely be worth 6 points. If they win this game, Southampton, they put themselves above Leeds. In fact, let's have a look at they get 20. They might even leave the relegation zone. If West Ham lose as predicted, if Leeds United obviously get beaten by Southampton, and if Bournemouth somehow don't manage to get a point against Manchester City, then Southampton could be out of the relegation zone by the end of this match week. And that is why I have gone for Southampton to win 2-1 away at Leeds United. It's a big ask. Leeds United, I believe, got a new boss this week. I don't think he will have had time to settle into the squad before this fixture happens. But it'll be interesting. I've gone for 2-1 to Southampton. And I honestly think that you'll probably see Southampton in 17th by the end of this weekend. Even though Man City drew a blank against Nottingham Forest, I don't think it's any surprise that I'm going to put them beating Bournemouth. I do think, and as I've just said, where I thought Southampton will be in 17th by the end of the weekend, I do think that Bournemouth will be in 18th and drop into the relegation zone as a result of a defeat against Manchester City. I am going to start taking Manchester City players out of my fantasy football team, and certainly going to stop putting Haaland as captain because he has let me down big time recently. I've gone for 2-0 to Manchester City. I think they've got enough to get past Bournemouth, let's face it. I don't think it's going to be a complete rout, but either way, Bournemouth aren't getting anything out of this game. Next up, we got Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, which is a massive mid-table battle. And I'll try to be serious, but it makes me smile a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It's not quite a mid-table battle. In fact, it kind of is. Let's face it. It's quite funny at this point, if I'm honest with you. But Liverpool up against Crystal Palace. Liverpool started the game against Real Madrid so well. And so, I'm recording this on Wednesday evening, but before Man City play in the Champions League. So I've only seen Liverpool, Madrid out of the Champions League fixtures or the European fixtures this week. And with that, I just feel like Liverpool actually performed really well for the first 25 minutes, and then it all fell apart, of course. But up against Crystal Palace, if they play with that same intensity, Crystal Palace will not be able to manage them. If Nunez, if Salah are doing the movements they were doing against Real Madrid in the first 25 minutes of that game, they will have no issues with Crystal Palace. If they play the way they did for the second half, then maybe they'll have some issues. But I'm hoping that Liverpool are going to pick themselves up. A win would get them close to getting back into European positions, potentially in 6th place. So we can hope. We can hope, Liverpool fans, that you're going to have a better weekend than you did last. So let's go with... I'm going to go for 3-1 to Liverpool. I think that they will win. I think it will be convincing. I think you're probably going to see Darwin Núñez get a brace. Tottenham versus Chelsea it would arguably be game of the week. But I think Leeds versus Southampton's genuinely game of the week. When it comes to Tottenham versus Chelsea, it's actually 4th versus 10th. It's not that as impressive a fixture as maybe it once was. Again, Chelsea, a team that I back every week, saying that they're going to eventually turn things around. They've got too many players. They just need to click. They're going to get their goals eventually. What is going on? What is going on at Chelsea? I do not know. Turns out spending £600 million does not solve anything when you don't buy a player in the one position you need to buy a player in. And it's not Graham Potter's fault either. The team were creating chances last week. They created so many chances. They just have no one in that team that can put the ball in the back of the net. It is ridiculous. And for that reason, I'm going for a Spurs win. Spurs are being Spursy at the moment, but I'm going for a Spurs win. I put them down to win 2-1 at home to Chelsea. That will cement themselves in the top 4 for now, just fending off Newcastle for a little bit, who have started to slip recently, not winning in 4 games. But yeah, Tottenham, they're winning this one for me. Now, as a bonus prediction, I said there was going to be a bonus challenge for you guys, but before we get into that, let's check out the subscriber results for last game week. So game week 24 subscribers results looks like this. Tin Long is up at the top of the charts for the first time since joining the series, so congratulations to you, sir. He's been in the top 3 quite a bit, but this is the first time he's reached number 1. Very happy for him. Annie and Jaclius came in with 7 points just behind him, and Wilf came in with 6 points as well. Me and Ben ended with 2 points. Frankly, we had an absolute nightmare of a weekend and we don't want to talk about it. But overall, no one getting over 10 points this week is not good enough, guys. We need to pick it up. And Stuyben and Jostle, we missed you last week. Last week we had 5 likes on the video from 5 people predicting, which is great because everyone who predicted liked the video. Thank you very much, guys. But it just shows we had the least amount of people predicting last week. I need people to get back into this. So Stuyben and Jostle, pick up the pace, sir. We need to get you guys predicting. And the bonus challenge is this. You're not going to get any points in Premier League Predictor, but you will get bragging rights in the comments. Can you predict the final of the Carabao Cup? We got Newcastle against Manchester United. Manchester United have actually won 3 of their last 4 games. Newcastle have lost 1 of their last 4, but they've also drawn the other 3. They've only got 3 points out of a possible, quick maths, 12. So it's not great. It is not great at all, unfortunately, for Newcastle fans right now. They're just in such a bad run of form coming into a final. I do feel for them. And of course, they can't have Pope in goal because he got sent off. They can't have Dubravka in goal because he's cup tied. I believe they're going to have to go. I think Darlow's gone out on loan. I think it's Karius. Karius is going to be playing in a cup final unless they bring in some youth goalkeeper, which frankly might be a good idea with Karius's run of form in previous cup finals that he's been in, Champions League, of course. So I feel for Newcastle because it's the worst time to lose your number 1 goalkeeper and also not be allowed to play your number 2 or your number 3. It's quite funny for a United's fans' perspective, but it is what it is. You've also got, I think Gimenez is coming back, which is going to be very good for Newcastle. But you've also got Casemiro coming back for United, which is massive for them. Whenever he plays, we perform. Whenever he doesn't play, we look very sloppy in the midfield. The game last week for Manchester United up against Leicester, they won 3-0, but there wasn't really a point in that game where I was like, I feel comfortable, we've won this. Casemiro brings that to the team. So I'm going to predict Manchester United versus Newcastle. I'm going to go for a United win. I'm a United fan. I need to back the boys. And I'm going to go for 2-0 to Manchester United on the day. I think Newcastle, with the lack of goalkeeper, will have to go quite defensive and will unfortunately see themselves go a goal behind early on. They will try and attack United and then Rashford scores on the break. That's the one I'm going for. So get your prediction to that extra challenge down in the comments down below, along with all the other Premier League predictions, of course, so that you guys can see yourself on the subscribers leaderboard next week. Thank you very much for watching. Please do continue to support these videos. Hit me with a massive thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I'll see you in the next one. Wonder if I'll get abuse on shorts, reels and TikTok for my predictions this week.